Good day, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today on Mindset Shift podcast, we have Daria Ladyzynska, who is based out of Poland. Daria is a wife, a mother, entrepreneur with a big E. And what she's doing, she's striving to help people with business English coaching and incorporating tools of tactical empathy into the process of teaching business English. Daria is using empathy-based communication tools and business English skills to help CEOs, directors, sales managers who are struggling with their leadership and sales techniques to move everyone forward, cut better deals, and build meaningful long-term relationships. What else did I miss, Daria?
It looks like you covered it all. It was a very good introduction. Thank you very much.
Perfect. So for those who are not familiar with what tactical empathy and empathy-based communication skills, can you give us a quick outline? What is empathy-based communication?
Empathy-based communication is roughly what Chris Voss has been promoting for a long time. So it's completely focusing on understanding the perspective of the other person, digging deeper into what drives them, finding out the underlying motivation. And it's very useful if you work in sales, because then you have a better understanding and you create more trust, build better rapport, and things just run smoothly.
Perfect. So for those who are not aware, who is Chris Voss and how did you find them? What made them important to you?
Of course, I think probably most of the people who are fascinated with tactical empathy, we came across his book. But his book, it was a game changer and eye-opener for me, but his book was not enough to start implementing. It just gave me a very interesting perspective. So I started to learn from him. So I took part in some group teaching and I joined his group. So it gave me a better insight and I started to implement. First, I started to implement in my own sales process and the results were, well, amazing because, I don't have any sales background. When I started my business, I had to learn sales myself. And for me, first I learned from coaches and sales scripts, and that was a mistake. But I didn't know it was a mistake because some scripts are good, some are crappy, whatever. But the sales script distracts you from where you should be because you are just trying to figure out where you are in the sales script and where you should be in the head and mind of your prospect. So for me, a sales script was a source of anxiety. Of course, I made a lot of sales, but I think I lost a lot of sales because I followed a sales script.
That's perfect. And Chris Voss is actually a lead hostage negotiator in US, working with FBI for many years. So when we're talking about empathy-based communication tools, that is actually based on the body of knowledge of FBI and how do you negotiate with terrorists? How do you get, people out of the dangerous situations? And that actually speaks to scripts per se. Scripts wouldn't work in this area, right? Because you have to really understand your counterpart, the person that you're speaking with, whether it is your grandma or it is your business partner, you have to understand where they're coming from. And sales scripts or certain lines that they teach during the sales trainings are more or less useless, especially if it's a source of anxiety, because now you have a performance anxiety. How do I perform? How do I say this script? Do I need to say this? Do I need to say that? Oh my God, am I missing something? And that's anxiety.
Yeah. Anxiety and stress really paralyze me. I used to be, so nervous before every sales call. Now every sales call looks like a friendly chat. Well, I don't get majority of prospects I end up talking to are warm prospects. So I guess they have already made up their mind that they want to work with me. They just need some additional proof to convince themselves, or maybe they want to find out more about my program and the prices, but sometimes they even know the prices because when we have some texting before, I see that somebody's really very anxious to know the price. So I usually label them that it looks like you would like to know the price before you get on the call with me. And immediately, yes, I would like to know the price because I don't know if I can afford it. So I give them the range. And if they decide to get on the call with me, I already know they made some decisions. Yes, they're just looking for more evidence to make that final decision. So the whole conversation is just, you know, a friendly chat, not a sales call.
Exactly. And for me, sales call or any business relationship should strive to build a collaborative space, collaboration, right? And that's when, you know, you cannot, there is no place for anxiety. There could be place for excitement and anticipation of what you're going to discover or build together. But anxiety is something that drags you and everyone else down. So by having an approach of empathy, tactical empathy in this case, you are kind of, you know, shedding a light on these moments, on this dynamic of anxiety or stress, or like, can I afford this? How it's going to look like for me? You know, how it's going to help me achieve my goals. And that becomes just another conversation to move everyone forward. And if you are at the space where, you know, you can potentially help each other, well, then it's just, again, becomes another stage of the conversation, another step in the conversation. And the coolest part about this is that you get to practice tactical empathy while finding the clients in between, after, before, and, you know, somewhere in the middle. And they get to have a taste of what it would feel like, you know, getting you know, communication coaching.
Yeah, and a lot of clients told me they decided to work with me because they had a feeling that I understood them. Even though some people were very transparent, not everyone is transparent. I love honesty when they tell me it's about the price. Or I have to be honest with you, I've also scheduled a few calls with other coaches who are offering similar services. I really appreciate honesty. A client, she was very honest with me, and she was back in 3 days. Although my prices were a little bit higher, she preferred to work with me because she felt I understood her better. And it's true, because using tactical empathy, I discovered a lot of the so-called black swans. Yeah. So I made a lot of assumptions. Of course, I can't help making assumptions. Some of them were wrong. And tactical empathy tools helped me discover what was really driving that person. And it wasn't the same driver, which was common for most of my clients, because people come with the same problems, but the source of problems is different. And in this case, it was a completely different source of problem. And because I discovered, then paraphrased, summarized, confirmed that absolutely we are on the same page, she had this feeling, confidence that I am the right person to help her. And I wouldn't have done it if I had followed some stupid sales script.
You said something important there, black swans. And for those who are not aware of what are the black swans? How do you understand this?
So it comes from Chris Voss's book. So these are, he calls that the unknown unknowns, yeah, that if uncovered, they would have changed the course of any conversation. And Chris Voss says that in every conversation, you have a few, like 2-3 black swans. I don't know how many. I usually discover one, which is the game-changing swan.
100%. And those are, like you said, unknown unknowns that have potential to change completely the picture in your mind of what it could look like for you or for them in terms of, you know, moving forward together. Something that might be holding them back, or something that will be a big no for you in terms of whether to deal with them or not deal with them at all. And it's very interesting because yes, every conversation have at least few of them, but it's also very important to you know, finding enough mental capacity to identify them. And you know, what FBI is saying is, you know, just from the practical standpoint, they have 6 people in the room listening to one conversation when they're dealing with the hostage takers. What it tells us is that you're missing tremendous amount of information flying at you, and you're not able to, to get everything if you just have two set of ears. So what you miss might be a black swan. And, that's actually a skillful part, the skill that you could develop. It's the active listening. How do you listen? What is it that you kind of extract from the meaning that you extract from what is being said here? What is the emotional dynamic? What are they feeling? Are they saying, is it congruent with how they're feeling? What's driving them? And I think that's really important to discovering a black swan or unknown unknowns. And it doesn't matter who you're speaking with, whether it's a business communication, or it's, family member, whether it's, friend you're discussing whether to go to the movie night or whatnot. What are the driving force behind any sort of requests? And that's I think, one way of looking at what black swans is, and how do you kind of uncover this situation and the factual information that help move everything forward.
I usually uncover black swans using mislabeling. Sometimes I mislabel intentionally. Sometimes I think I am using the correct label, but it turns out it was a mislabel because I got immediately corrected. And it's like, aha, so it's not about that, it's about this. Yeah, so tactical empathy and being, it completely relaxed me, because I know that I have the tools which will help me have this natural flow of conversation. I will come across as a friendly person, and it's extremely helpful in getting my prospects to open up and share a lot of information. Some people are not very talkative, and they are not very willing, they are not bubbly. They feel, for a lot of people, having to speak in English is also a source of anxiety. So if you keep mirroring, labeling, summarizing, they open up and they are more likely to share a lot of information. Now, when we have, I'm bad at overcoming objections, but I don't get a lot of objections. I know that objections should be understood, not overcome. I know that. And I also know that some people give you an objection, but it's actually a different objection to what they are saying. And tactical empathy also gives you some potential to discover the source of the objection.
Yeah, 100%. And, objections is just something that's, they're normally saying in sales, you have to overcome objections. But actually, objections is probably arising much earlier than you think they are. In any conversation, it means that you...
If you have objections, it means you haven't addressed something properly. I can tell you, I had a very nice sales call, which I closed, which ran very smoothly to my surprise. Yeah. And I was wondering if I should do the accusation audit, which are so voice or verbalize all the negativity, so preempt all these objections. But we had such a great rapport, so I didn't, And on the next day, the client texted me with all the objections, which I had not addressed during the sales call. And I thought, shit, I should have listened to my intuition. Yeah. So, having the tools of tactical empathy, and the rest of the conversation was through texting, I addressed these objections, summarized, got him to, again, that's right, absolutely. So this is the source of anxiety. We were on the same page, and we agreed to slightly tweak the rules of our cooperation. So he felt at rest. And then the cooperation is going very smoothly. But if I didn't have tactical empathy at my disposal, he probably would have dropped out. So for me, it was a very important indication that even though the sales call is going very well, you always have to address all the negativity, because if you don't do it, it will backfire. So sooner or later. And I don't like this addressing, I think nobody likes addressing negativity. Yeah? Chris Voss himself says that accusation audit is a very difficult soft skill because it makes us feel vulnerable and uncomfortable. And I have the same. I don't like it. I'm getting better, but still I don't enjoy it. But if I don't do it, it will work against me later.
100%.
For example, my prices are higher. Yeah. So I have to tell, because if I just drop the price and they say, okay, so they will go and compare the prices. So I have to address the prices here and now. Why the price is higher? There is a specific reason why the price is higher. And that has to be brought up now, because then it will be used against me. And I will have no control over that process anymore, because now I have the control.
Yeah, and you said something really important, that uncomfortable, right? And anxious. You know, uncomfortable, that's where the change happens. And in essence, when you're teaching people communication skills, and I truly believe that the quality of communication defines the quality of your life. So in essence, by changing the way you communicate, by approaching it from different angles, you are changing your life. And it could be uncomfortable for people to change the communication style that they are so used to, the kind of the language and patterns that they're using to communicate, whether it's a sales call or some other scenarios. So being uncomfortable is a part of the process. And when you say now preemptive labeling and accusation, it's really hard idea to grasp and tool to kind of be comfortable with, because exactly of that, you have to become vulnerable, you have to become uncomfortable in order, and you have to elicit it in them too, in order to have this very concrete, you know, clarity that it is going to be uncomfortable, it is going to make you feel vulnerable, but you know what, that's exactly what you need right now to grow, to expand, to, you know, to enhance your life, to enhance your communication skills. And if people do not understand this, you know, eventually it's going to become an objection in itself, whether it's a part of the sales call or part of the coaching. Oh, you said you're gonna, you know, maybe they would think that it's another sort of a sales script or another, you know, tools or tactics that you're gonna give to them that they can use and, you know, and get perfect results. But in essence, you're giving them a hammer. And you also have to teach them how to hold this. And the difference between trust and safety and uncomfortable and anxiety is hammering that nail or hammering the fingernail. So, you know, it's really important to go through this uncomfortable sensations of vulnerability and address it first before it arises from your counterpart, before it becomes an obstacle for you and so big sometimes that it seems impossible to overcome. That's what derails the sales calls. That's what makes them think, I'm going to compare something else. This is a little bit cheaper. This is a little bit more like for me, because the tools of tactical empathy and accusation audit, it is essential in pretty much every conversation where you dive into vulnerability, when you dive into the, you know, uncomfortable sensation. And that's what creates trust. The sensitivity creates trust, and trust creates, you know, hope and optimism. And then it builds into the collaboration.
Yeah. And you've just given me an idea for another element of my accusation audit, because most of my clients, not all, most of my clients don't like accusation audits for the same reason. It's not intuitive and it makes them feel uncomfortable and they kind of run through it. They want to just blurt things out fast because they want to move on to the next point, which is a mistake, of course. So probably part of my accusation audit should be that I should bring up this point that are you ready to feel uncomfortable? Are you ready to learn something new? Because I'm gonna teach you techniques that will make you feel uncomfortable and vulnerable. And are you ready to take the plunge? Chris Voss says also you have to disqualify people early on. So if somebody is not ready to feel uncomfortable, we are not a good fit.
100%, and change happens in uncomfortable. And if they're not
ready to because they will not achieve any results. And my business is a referral-based business. If my clients achieve results and talk about it, I get more clients. So it's not in my interest to take on clients who will not get any results because they will not be happy and I'm not moving forward in my business.
100%. And Daria, I would like to dive into how it all started for you. How did you become a business teacher, or an English teacher first, and then graduated towards, whatever you're doing right now?
Of course, it all started with the lockdown, but I always wanted to be, independent and go it alone. And the lockdown was just a powerful trigger. Okay, now or never. So I joined some coaching programs, of course, and the basic idea was put together some program to solve a problem. Very good idea. So at the time I had only, business English background. So I put together business English program. But very early on, I realized that English, so language or business English or vocabulary is not enough to communicate effectively. No matter how good your English is, it's not enough. So I started to look for inspiration and I found tactical empathy, so empathy-based communication. And I decided, yeah, that's it. I fell in love with it immediately. It somehow resonated with me. I don't know why. So I embraced it completely. So I started to use it myself and I started to incorporate it to my coaching program. Because now I know, because I've been in it for a year and a half and I know why. Because, my clients are sales managers, sales directors, so people who need to understand their clients and offer them the best solutions. Now, if English is your second language, you bring to the table another story. So you have the story, I have to close the sale. There are a lot of issues going on in my life at the back of your mind. And there is another story. My English is not good enough, which is a source of anxiety and stress. And that's the funny thing, no matter how good your English is, if it's not your native language, you're gonna think it's not good enough. And that story is going to work against you in this high stakes business interactions, because negotiation sales are always, stress laden interactions. So it's another story which is working against you. So what tactical empathy is doing for people who are non-native speakers, but not only native speakers as well, but somehow I happened to be working with non-native speakers. So actually it gives them relief because it shifts the focus. They don't concentrate on, oh my God, my English is not good enough. They use tactical empathy, the tools of tactical empathy to better understand their clients. And paradoxically, the English gets better because they don't focus on it. They're just using it as a tool for communication. If they don't freak out about it, it gets better. So what people have to understand that actually freaking out over their English is holding them back from being very effective in high stakes communication. And when they focus on applying the tools of tactical empathy, everything gets better. Effectiveness gets better, and they feel relieved, and the stress is off. So now they can perform with clarity.
100%. And, from my side, I speak 4 languages. So English is my third language. And I know firsthand that you feel a lot of anxiety. You become self-conscious of how you're using language to communicate certain ideas, how it lands, how are you being perceived there? Are you making a fool of yourself? Are you going to be able to understand other part to the best of your ability? You're going to misunderstand something and then again make a fool of yourself, and all this anxiety. It's keep piling up. The problem is
people worry about, okay, I'm gonna make a fool of myself. I'm gonna be embarrassed. I'm going to make mistakes which will cause misunderstanding. And another thing, I cannot communicate what I really mean to say because I feel limited by, I don't have enough words to express myself. But if you are nervous and anxious, you know that you have even more limited arsenal, because we talked about it, and now I know that if you feel stressed, you are just more stupid, less smart.
100%. And the way I like to approach this when I'm working with my clients is, and we doing the practice session role plays and the sales scenarios, I like to ask them, you know, on the scale from 0 to 10, 10 being maximum level of anxiety, distress, and 0 being completely calm and peaceful, how do you feel going through this sales scenarios, or, you know, unpacking the situation? And it's like, well, I feel 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm saying, well, that means that 60 to 70% of your mental capacities is occupied by this anxiety. How effective can you communicate through these spaces of mind? Now imagine you're communicating with your child, right? You're bubbling, you're happy, you're just playful. You're not occupied by anxiety. It's a joy, it's playfulness, it's creativity, right? And this is the states of mind when you learn the most, when you explore, when you expand, when you collaborate with other people. And English in this regards, or any language for that matter, is just a toolbox. It's a tool set. And how well are you, you know, like you could probably hammer a nail with your slipper if you put enough efforts. Of course, if you take the best hammer, it's going to take you maybe 1 or 2 hits. With slipper, it might take you a few hundreds, but you can still get to the desired results. So it's not really the tool set that you're using, it's how you wield the tools, right? How you approach the problem. And the language in itself is not an obstacle. The obstacle is how you holding it, how you holding yourself when you're communicating. And that's what empathy-based communication really helps you to kind of move towards these spaces of mind. When you're focusing not on yourself, because the goal is not yourself, the goal is helping someone else help you get to the ultimate goal. But for that, you have to listen to them. You have to understand their problems, where they're coming from, their language. And in this case, I'm not referring to English. I'm talking about the thought patterns, the verbiage that is, how they describe certain things. That is what you're learning when you're communicating with people through the empathy based. How can you use common language, common you know, pool of shared meaning that we are accumulating here, for example, with you, Daria, to communicate more effectively? What kind of words do we need to use? And it goes beyond English at all. If you just turn on your ears, your eyes, and understand, you know, from the top level, where they're coming from, what kind of language they use, you're already setting yourself up for success and understanding.
So, you know, surprisingly, if you embrace tactical empathy, so empathy-based communication, things gets easy because you focus totally on understanding your clients. And you know what? The trick is your clients provide all the vocabulary. You don't have to do anything. You just probe deeper, and you mirror, you label, you paraphrase, you summarize. You don't have to look for sophisticated vocabulary. Just use the input from your clients.
100%. And perhaps you can find some examples in your life. I know I've been working years ago when I was a student on the factory, and I was working with Bulgarian gentleman who couldn't put 2 words together in English. And yet he was friends with everyone. He would communicate with this kind of a gibberish from the position of like, you know, high level of English, just gibberish. And yet everyone was able to communicate with him and come to the, you know, to the same conclusions. And everyone was happy to have him around because he was bubbly. He was provide energy, optimism, and all of this. So that's just, you know, years and years ago. It just showed me that, wow, you know, this anxiety, this stress, this tension, that when you kind of stuck in your own head thinking about, am I good enough? You know, can I do this? There are examples.
There was a TED talk. There was a very good TED talk. I don't remember the name, but a woman who did the TED talk, she said that language is not a perfection to be mastered, but it's just a tool to be used to achieve your results. The name is Speak English Like You Are Playing a Video Game. She mentioned exactly that the same, that people with very mediocre level of English, if they were curious about the other person, they were extremely effective. And people who are very like upper intermediate or advanced, if they focused on making a good impression, they were completely ineffective. So it's more or less the same. And what I also came across, it was last week on LinkedIn, somebody made a great post, and I still remember it. It was about a bumblebee. that a bumblebee has such parameters that it shouldn't fly, but it doesn't know about it, so it flies. And I thought, wow, that's really great.
It's very interesting, yeah, and it just comes to speak to mindset, and you said something important: curiosity. And you know, curiosity is opposite of fear or anger. You cannot be afraid and be curious at the same time. You cannot be angry and, you know, curious at the same time. It's just the opposite thing. And when you become curious and not furious, that's when magic happens, because then you get to explore rather than being stuck and tripping all over your language, the way you say things, the way you react to things. You're just curious to explore this space with the person that is in front of you, or a group of people for that matter. But for that, it comes down to your own, you know, internal compass, your own sensation, right? Are you going to be constantly stirring towards fear and anxiety, or are you able to cultivate this curiosity, trust, you know, gratitude, compassion? And these are the all ingredients of curiosity. I truly believe that you have to become compassionate, so to understand other person's pain, so that you can communicate about it. Then you have to become grateful, because they're sharing with you something very important to them. If they're talking to you, they want something from you, and they're sharing with you some important things that you might not attach significance, but they are. So, you know, once you identify this leverage, this you know, black swans, then you're able to explore it, and that's how you build trust. So compassion, gratitude, curiosity, you know, how can you help here? Like, oh, this person is talking to you right now, they're spending their time. You can be grateful for this, because their time is money, their time is their effort, right? And they are spending it here with you. So gratitude. And you know, joy. Like, if it's not joy that's fueling it, if it's not love for what you're doing, then it's probably fear. It is probably some sort of a pain that's kind of fueling you know, this relationship. And if it's fear, then it's not a long-term relationship. It's going to be you know, short-term, cutthroat kind of a business that a lot of sales you know, techniques, a lot of sales schools teaching. You know, press on the pain, you know, cut the deal, cut the throat, make sure you get the best possible you know, kind of outcome for you first. And you know, all this kind of dynamic, it's not productive towards the long-term productive relationships.
I read a lot about methodology of sales, because I thought it would teach me a lot, but the effect was the opposite. And that's why I completely, you know, resonated with what Chris Voss said, that you have to know where people are coming from, what drives them. Because we know that sales is about showing people that they have to move on and make a change, that where they are now is not working for, that they are losing money by sticking to a current solution. Yeah. And that's the like basic approach to sales. I think Chris Voss also said it, but many other salespeople mentioned that. But okay, the status quo can be a source of a loss. But what if the driver is somewhere else? People have different drivers, so they can afford to lose money. It's not a big issue. When some emotional drivers are not identified and addressed, they will not move on. They will just reconcile themselves to losing money or whatever it is they are losing.
100%. And I would like to dive a little bit into the clients that you're helping. And what are your clients' biggest goals when they kind of begin working with you?
They always tell me, the sentence which I hear on every sales call is, I want to communicate confidently with my clients, with my foreign partners. It's the classic sentence. But what they think they have to do, and it's true, they always tell me they need to expand vocabulary, improve their English. So what I actually have to do, some people who I am connected with on LinkedIn, who have been exposed to my content, they already know that it's more, it's going beyond English. But if I get somebody completely cold prospect who just texted me from Facebook, if I tell them that it's not only about English, they are going to experience a shock. So I have to educate people first that, okay, English, you will learn English for the rest of your life. And it's a fact. And it's actually your responsibility. I can teach you some business-related expressions, the full phrases, but if you really want to feel confident and talk to native speakers and completely forget that English is your second language, that requires a lot of work. I know it from my experience. Now I'm relaxed, but it took me a lifetime to learn English. And sometimes I come across some idioms which I do not understand, but it doesn't matter anymore. But what you can do here and now, when you are intermediate or upper intermediate, focus on the relevant part of English for business interactions and align or incorporate tools of tactical empathy, because it will give you solutions and confidence fast. And you will take care of learning English on your own for the rest of your life. For example, let's talk about mirroring. Yeah, we know that if you mirror people, they will continue talking and they will provide more information. But did you know that you can also use mirroring to cover up your ignorance? And I tried it out, and I told my clients, every time you don't know an expression which I used, just mirror me. So I don't know if I'm explaining the language or the client is asking for overall clarification. Anyway, I'm just explaining. So they figure out what I mean. And they tested it out and they said, yes, it's true. Every time I mirrored part of the language which I didn't understand, they provided more information. So when you ask somebody, could you repeat, sorry, I didn't catch, you are drawing attention to yourself and your ignorance, and it makes you feel embarrassed. If you mirror the part of the language you don't understand, you will get more information, clarification. If you are smart, and most people I teach are smart, they figure out overall meaning. So they are just learning English during these interactions. And at the same time, they don't draw attention to the ignorance and being a non-native speaker of English. You see? So it's a second attribute or second upside of using mirroring, learning, asking for clarification without drawing attention to your ignorance.
Absolutely. And actually, that's how you're using your ignorance to your advantage. What mirroring does, and the way I'm understanding it, is drawing focus towards specific things that you think are important. And a lot of people are saying when they kind of discovering this tool, and that may be something that would help listeners who are not familiar with this, is that when they're practicing this tool and start mirroring everything that they don't understand, the person who's in front of them might say, "Well, you're repeating me all the time. Like why are you repeating me all the time?" And the way I kind of like to approach it is like, well, I'm sorry, it may seem like I'm repeating you, and that's not the intention. The reason why I'm doing this is that you said something important here, and it felt like it's important to explore this a bit more or a bit further. And then then it becomes, that's exactly what you're doing, because that's what you're directing focus to a very specific part of the language pattern, and then naturally the focus is on it, so the person is naturally feel like expanding on that. If there isn't enough report, sometimes report is not there and they will resist it. So then you can address the resistance and use your ignorance to your own advantage.
Yes. However, people overuse mirroring. Once they learn about it, they feel fascinated. Wow, I can use, and they overuse mirroring. And it really, it is frustrating. I get frustrated when people mirror me all the time, because now I know they are using it a little bit against me. So you shouldn't overdo. The same is with labels. You shouldn't overdo. It's just normal. Just communicate with people like you used to, but use these tools as a, I would say, some kind of filter or extra software you add to your communication. It's not just the core of communication, and people just overuse tactical empathy, and then it becomes too obvious, too evident, and a bit irritating.
100%. And of course, like any tool, you use it, you know, when you have, there is this expression in English, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail to you. So I think that applies
I know
to this
that from
right?
which book. I read the book and I immediately noticed that quotation. I thought, wow, it reminds me of so many people from my life because they have only a hammer. So everything looks like a nail.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yes.
you also said something interesting, is that it is common for you to hear from your clients is that, you know, they want to talk confidently with their, you know, business partner, with their clients. What is confidence for them? How do you see they see confidence?
So it always comes from the language perspective. That's why when I was learning a lot about marketing, because I didn't know how to position myself from this kind of English teaching background or more negotiation sales consultant. But, you know, I really listened to my intuition and I wanted to tap into my experience. My experience is teaching English. So let's stick to my strength, because you have a lot of negotiation consultant, sales consultant. Maybe one day I can be one of them. But I feel confident in what I'm doing. So people always feel they need to learn language. So I realized that, okay, so from this perspective, language, let's teach them language. While using empathy-based communication, I'm teaching them the language actually, but it's a different form of communication. Yeah, Chris Voss teaches negotiation. That's how he promotes his services. But actually, I wouldn't call that negotiation. I think negotiation is something which sounds good, sounds catchy. Okay, probably he has a very well thought out marketing. And he's very successful. So actually he's teaching communication. So now I'm using this communication thing from a language perspective. So I don't want to be position myself as negotiation guru. No, I want to teach people how to communicate effectively and confidently. And it will take, I will be both coach and a teacher, because I have to teach them part of English, and I have to teach them that mistakes are part of the process, and that also the attitude and approach, everything is changing, that it's connection over perfection. So I am now being a teacher. But when I coach people on tactical empathy, it's coaching now, because I'm giving them solutions to specific problems. I don't mind being called a teacher. Some time ago, I would prefer to be called a coach. You know why? Because it sounds better and it also implies a higher price. Teacher sounds cheap, but I completely relaxed about it. Okay, hire a cheap teacher and you will see if you get the same results. Whatever you call me, I'm fine, as long as you know what I provide and what effects you will get. And now you can call me a teacher, a coach, a consultant. I'm gonna be fine. There was also, some story connected with teacher. I didn't want to be called a teacher because I had very bad associations connected with teacher. Teacher implies cheapness, and it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because there are different strings attached to each of these words: teacher, coach, and consultant. And from different cultures, you will have different kind of stigma attached to those things. And I would tend to agree that teaching and teacher used to, for me at least, it's associated with school. School teacher. And it's even in university you have professors. You don't have teachers, right? And it's different. So so coaching and consultant. Well, for me, the difference between coaching and consultant, I think it's an important distinction to make. Consultants are kind of not involved in the results. I'm going to give you advice. It's up to you whether you're going to implement it or not.
Mm.
Coach is invested in results in a sense, because it's your job to coach, to guide people through, to explore different things and make sure that you get them to success, the coach, the trainer. So I think, I know that a lot of different people attach different strings to words, but for me, coach resonates better than consultant, because when I teach, and I see that when you teach, you are interested in people's results. You're interested in seeing them implementing your ideas, your concepts, your tools that you're teaching them to the higher level, to incorporating it in their own communication skills. And that's just a consultation. So that might be something, an important distinction to make when, when exploring this with clients.
I'm only interested in results because I told you clients' results move me forward and get me more clients. That's why I charge by the program. So if a client needs more sessions to be scheduled because they feel they haven't had enough practice, fine. Yeah, no extra costs. So I don't like when somebody asks me, how much do you charge per hour? Actually, I hate this question, because then they realize, oh my God, it's quite a lot of money for 1 hour. But so if somebody looks at me like that, I know we are not a good fit. That's for sure. So disqualified. But I shouldn't make too many assumptions, because a lot of people who texted me, I'm looking for a teacher. And I thought, oh my God, we are not a good fit because she's looking for a teacher, yeah? But on the call, it turned out that she was very open about it. And teacher was something she was used to believing, yeah? So it was just a term she used without thinking about it. She wouldn't mind working with a coach. So some people, it's always better not to make any assumptions. Approach everyone with an open mind. Maybe he's looking for a coach, but he says he's looking for a teacher. Doesn't matter.
It is coming back to the same idea we explored earlier, that you have to explore what they mean by that. A teacher, yeah. What does it look like for you, right? And then they get to tell you what do they mean by teacher, because again, English is, whatever meaning we attach to words could be completely different for someone else than it is for you. For you, coach, teacher, English, or consultant could be completely different than it is for them. So it is your job using empathy-based communication skills to kind of see how they're looking at this from their perspective, right? What are they hoping to achieve? What do you think is possible to achieve for them in that period of time, for example? And that gives you an ammunition to kind of see, all right, whether it's possible to help them or it's impossible, and what they hope for is just not aligning with how you approach things. And I mean, the other thing about confidence, which is very interesting for me, when I'm talking to people, confidence for me is just being comfortable in your skin. It is a sense of comfort. A lot of people like, I need to be more confident. I need to, that would help me achieve this, achieve that. We just need to relax and slow it down. It's just like you said, perfection, not, what was the expression that you...
Connection over perfection.
Connection over perfection. Perfect. Right. So how do you connect with yourself, first of all, and draw this energy that will help to move everything forward, whether it's an energy of trust, optimism, whether it's an energy of collaboration that you want to evolve, whether it's an energy of respect, confidence. Again, you have to find it within yourself first, because you cannot give what you do not have.
Yeah. So the source of lack of confidence for my clients is, unfortunately, I don't have enough words to express myself. So, okay, once they have enough, they believe they have enough words to express themselves, they relax. Then they apply the tools of tactical empathy, and everything becomes easy, because they have clients opening up, talking, collaborating, and they see that they have enough words. English is not a problem, not an obstacle, it's just a tool, and immediately confidence skyrockets. So they solve the problems, and okay, so one negotiation done very well, sales closed, I didn't feel stressed. So that builds more confidence in the future. So problem seems to be solved.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge your clients have? I mean, we talk about goals, right? And goals seems to be talking confidently with clients. But what is the biggest challenge here? You mentioned it's a vocabulary. You mentioned that it's this ability to understand. Is there anything else that that sticks out in your mind?
The biggest challenge is to forget that English is not your first language. This is the biggest challenge. They always feel fear of native speakers. I don't know why. Actually, I do know. I used to be afraid of native speakers because native speakers use a lot of idiomatic expressions. They speak fast and they will notice every single mistake you're gonna make. It's true. But okay, and that's also something what I tell my clients, nobody focuses on your mistakes. Everyone wants to be understood. Yeah. So if you have a group of non-native speakers, probably everyone is struggling with the same story, that my English is not good enough. So if you make mistakes or you don't make mistakes, it doesn't matter because they will just concentrate on understanding you and putting that words together. So as long as you are understood, that's fine. With native speakers, first of all, they make mistakes too. It's true. But I was wondering if, for example, using accusation audit in this case would solve this problem. Because if you are a non-native speaker, your English obviously is not as good as native speakers. So why don't you say it at the very beginning of the conversation? That look, I may sound nervous, I may struggle, I may ask you for clarification, I'm still learning English, yeah? But I also read that diffusing emotions works 100% if you do it in your native language. If you do it in any other language, which is not your native, this diffusion of negative emotions is less effective. It may be true. It may be true. But for sure, it will diffuse these negative emotions to some extent. So if you can get rid of any negative stories from difficult conversation, why not do it?
Yeah, very interesting. So to forget that English is not your first language. So meaning that it's not holding you hostage anymore. Your English skills or your ability to communicate should not be a hindrance to the progress that you are striving to make with your potential clients. In fact, it could be a learning opportunity for both of you to understand where you're both coming from and help each other move towards goals that you set out to achieve together.
Yes.
Perfect, Daria. So please tell our listeners where can they find more about what you do, how to get in touch with you, and learn more about the things that you're passionate about.
The first, it's obvious, LinkedIn, of course, Daria Ladyzynska, LinkedIn. And I have the most, I think, valuable content on LinkedIn because most of my clients have come from LinkedIn. And these clients are the best fit for me. Of course, second source is Facebook, and I have a group. It's Business English for Sales, Negotiation, and Management. And I do some interesting lives when you have a lot of actionable tips. I also have my website. It's a recent or fresh website. It's www.businessenglish.consulting. So you have a very detailed description of what I do and how to get in touch with me. And of course, you can always subscribe to my email marketing, which is getting better and better because recently I wrote one email and from one email, I had now 16 people who reached out from one email, which means it was good.
Well, there you go, guys.
I've never done any email marketing training, so I'm completely a complete rookie. So I'm really surprised. I will have this email framed.
Well, that might be the beginning for you, the takeoff for your practice and your goal to help more and more people with their English skills. Well, actually, their communication skills. English is not a factor here. It is really a communication skills that you're talking about. It's really about communicating more effectively with yourself, communicating more effectively with people out there, and helping people change the world one step at a time, I suppose. So
Absolutely.
thank you for coming here. All the links to your information will be in the description below, so people can get in touch with you easier. And thank you for fascinating conversation, Daria. We wish you all the best. And it's fascinating where it's going to lead all of us here, because it feels like it's just the beginning.
It is. So thank you very much for having me. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers.